Welcome to another episode of Alpha Intuition Podcast. I'm here to help you to become the CEO of your life. I'm your host, Keisha L. Blair, aka Keisha the Electrician. And if this is your first time watching, please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and send this to somebody that you almost like. They might decide to become a subscriber too. Now, Alpha Intuition family, today I have a really special guest for you guys. My guest today is living proof that leadership starts from the inside out. He helps men, especially young men, to build strong internal foundations through identity, structure, clarity, and emotional strength. He is the founder of Boyz II Men Foundation and also the author of Seek Ye First. And he's currently working on his next project, The Blueprint, Building Young Kings, The Blueprint to Manhood. It is a book that is designed to help people build their lives with purpose and discipline. And he doesn't just speak about motivation. He builds men who can start to stand on something strong and solid. Alpha Intuition family, it is my absolute honor to welcome Mr. Michael Samuels to the stage. Michael, how are you today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction.
You are very, very welcome. I try to shock people up and be like, okay, this is what I got to say. So I don't want to tell you right off the bat. Well, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you being here today. I know, this weather is crazy right now across the
yeah.
country. I don't know what you guys are experiencing out there, but I know where I am down here in Memphis, this is insane, the amount of snow that we got right now. So like I said, I'm just glad to get on and we have power and that we are alive and well.
Yeah, it's been super windy and super cold here. So I feel you.
All right. So, this season that I have, I'm talking about crafting careers that build. And, It's all about the skill traits for me, but I know building something, that means something totally different for different people. So what I want you to do, if you could tell my audience about just basically what you do, just tell me a little bit about your background and your journey to where you are right now.
Well, my background is very eclectic. But what I do today is we try to equip young men with the tools that are needed so that they can become the best version of themselves, so that they can be the leaders and the husbands and the fathers that are needed in today's world.
That is extremely important. So I'm a single mom. I have 4 children. 3 of them are boys. Well, I should say men, because the youngest one is 19. So hearing someone that is actually talking to young men about how to build that inner strength, so when they get out into the world, they'll have that when they decide to start relationships with different young women. So I appreciate you for being someone who's leading that.
Thank you.
Leading that initiative. Yeah. So, I want to ask you about building your own table. So for me, when I talk about building my own table, as a woman in skilled trades, I never really have a seat at the table. So I tell young women, sometimes you have to build your own, but I know that you've built your own table as far as with the Boyz II Men Foundation. So tell me about your foundation.
My foundation is more or less just, like my intro was, we try to equip those young men with those tools I've built out of trial and error, out of struggle, out of my own journey. I've taken 5, I call them pillars, that have seemed to really help me to become the best version of myself. And I'm not saying, I'm the best that I should be, but I'm 1% better than I was yesterday. And I thrive on doing that every day, because my desire is to take this incredible machine that God has given me to equip it to be the best version of myself. And so we've taken those 5 pillars, which are identity, values, leadership, emotional intelligence, and resilience, and put those together. I look at them like building a house, because when the foundation is shaky, everything you build on top of that is unstable.
Yes. Now, and I was going to jump into that because I like the fact that you call it. the Boys to Men Foundation, because that's where everything starts, is with the foundation. And just like you mentioned, if the foundation is shaky, everything else is going to crumble. You can't build on an unstable foundation.
Exactly.
So, you know, I thought that was like, ooh, I like the spin on that. So, you know, just thinking about the young men that you come across, it's like, you know, you speak about your 5 pillars, and those are basically great pillars for leadership as well, right? So tell me about what happens when someone doesn't really know who they are before they try to lead others.
First off, I believe that when we don't know who we are, we're completely lost.
Mm.
It's kind of like having our GPS. It's like having Siri and putting in the address, but then her sending us completely in the wrong direction. Um, and so when you have leaders that don't know themselves, I mean, how can you lead someone else if you don't know yourself in itself? You know, if you don't have a foundation or a basis or a balance of what you should do in your own life, how can you tell someone else what they should do in their life? I've lived off of that principle for so long, because we've always thought that leadership meant it's a tag that we wear saying I'm the supervisor, I'm the boss, or you know, a tag on our door that says I'm the supervisor, which it's not. It's not about leadership, but it's about fellowship, and no one's going to follow you if you don't know who you are.
You can just say that again for the people in the back. Man, nobody is going to follow you if you don't know who you are. So, you know, I say to people who always talk about what their titles are, I just say, you know, Jesus never had to tell anybody to follow him.
That is the truth. That is the truth. And just because I have a title, my brother says it a lot, and I love it, is that a lot of people see us on the mountaintop, but they don't see us on the climb.
Mm.
Where our character is built, our values are built. And I'm going to be honest with you, if you don't have those right characters, those right values, I myself am not going to follow you, because I don't want you to lead me somewhere that I don't need to be.
Mm. Mm. And you said about people will see you at the top, but they never see you on your climb. You know, that is basically, that's where the climb is, where you actually become the leader that you were meant to be.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to do a shameless plug. I have to do a shameless plug here, because the title of my book is Alpha Intuition, Don't Stop, Keep Climbing. So I just want to put that. So the keep climbing part is like, oh, that was a trigger right there. So it's like the don't stop, keep climbing. People they never think about, like you said, what it took to get to where you were. There's so much that goes into it, so many years of building. And even, you know, I'm going to take an apprenticeship, right? My apprenticeship, we had to have 8,000 hours before we were considered journeyman electricians. You know, it takes 4 years to get 8,000 hours. That's a lot of climbing that needs to be done. And then once you get there, that's just a start. You're not an expert. You know what I mean? You're just to the point to where you're qualified to mess up and be responsible for your work now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
You know, I write every morning in my journal, and I titled them just basically Conversations with God, Conversations with my Father. And literally, I was talking to him about that this morning, you know, just the fact that um, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord, but we don't really know what that truly means. And so we have to break that down to truly understanding, you know, where that takes us. And, you know, when I hear steps, I hear action. I hear keep going. I hear keep stepping, you know, and I mean, there's a whole concept to it, and I'm not going to preach, but
preach.
I hear that, and we keep on moving, you know, we keep on stepping, because I mean, yes, I'm the executive director, but no one at the same time has watched, you know, or sees me in my office. They don't see the tears that happen. And yes, I do cry. I'm very emotional when it comes to certain things and certain concepts. They don't see, you know, the hours that's spent that we don't have with our families, or the other things. All they see is the videos, the podcasts, but they don't see what it took for us to get there.
Exactly. And I mean, just speaking of podcasts, it's a whole production that goes into even trying to do a
Oh
15,
yeah.
30, 45 minute episode. It is a lot of work that goes into it. It takes a lot of dedication as well to even get past. I believe it's like I want to say statistically, people never make it past their 21st episode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's some I've never heard that, but I can truly believe it because I mean, I like this side of the podcast, but I have much respect for those that you know open up that space for us to be on their podcast, because it is. I mean, that's a whole production in itself. It's almost like doing a whole movie. It seems like for those that are doing like Bad Boys and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
and these people are doing it, once, twice, three, four times a week.
Yes. Look, once a week is enough for me, and I try to at least record more than once in the same day. Sometimes it doesn't always work. I've actually recorded, I think most is like 4 times in 1 week, and that can be a lot. Um,
Yeah.
but I think one thing I had to learn to stop doing was stop counting episodes. So I have to go back and look. I don't even know what episode we're on because I don't try to focus on it. I just go
Mhm.
ahead and record, and then I'll think about it afterwards. And I do some lives. I do episodes with other craftsmen for
Okay.
our skill trades legacy lab, and those are mostly live. But for
Mhm.
this one, I try to record these pre-hand and then release them. But it's still a whole production that goes into that, and it does take someone who's motivated for one, and who's also consistent, and actually has the drive and the determination to want to continue to produce episodes after episode, so people can see the information or hear the information that they want to put out.
So let me say it. I mean, I truly respect your craft, what you do. I respect you and I honor you and I appreciate it 100%.
Well, I thank you totally. I appreciate that. So look, and before I get too far off topic, I want to ask you about, because you started preaching. So I want to ask you
Hmm.
about your first book, which is Seek Ye First.
Seek ye
I should,
first.
I'm sorry, you started teaching, not preaching. You started teaching. So let's talk about Seek Ye First.
Well, that book was based off of Matthew 6:33.
Mhm.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else will be added.
Yeah.
Because what we do in life is we think that if we give God just a little bit more, that he is going to just bless us, or he is entitled to bless us. But that's where we get frustrated because we don't see the inheritance that says is ours. But and I'll just break it down real easily. I mean, seek ye first the kingdom of God, make him your priority, make him
Mhm.
your focus. And then when you make him your focus, then he already knows what we need,
Yes.
but then he'll give that to us. But the thing about it is that what I began to understand is, and I heard this when I was journaling one day, was the fact that um, seek ye first the kingdom of God. He gave us a mission. He gave us an assignment. He sent us on that mission and on that assignment. But if we're not mission focused, if we're not mission prioritized, if we're not on that mission, then what is the point of getting those resources? And so
Mhm.
I'm on a rabbit trail now because then you're gonna get me to start teaching. But
Come on,
the
let's do
fact of it is we seek ye first, and that was written off of a journey that I began to realize, because that's how I ended up in Clinton, Iowa. I'm here
it.
on assignment. I'm not here on my own fruition. Believe me,
Mm.
this would not have been my first choice. But I remember hearing him literally say to me while I was driving one day, "Did you ever think about Clinton?" And I said, no."
Mm.
Um, and so I talked to my wife. I remember talking to my wife about it, and she was like, "Are you pregnant?" She's like, "I will never move back to Clinton." I said, "Thank you for sealing our fate. Now we don't have a choice, because that's the first thing you don't do is tell God what you gonna do, because then
Oh,
He'll make sure that you do it anyway." And so that was the basis of that book, because I began to realize that as we seek ye first, as we begin to seek his righteousness, as we begin to seek his heart, as we begin to align, that everything else that we desire, instead of worrying about the things like I need this,
Mhm.
those things are already in the works. Those things are already there. We just need to prioritize the kingdom.
That's very true. No, that and so now real quick, because I know I didn't put this in my recap, but where can people find that book?
Amazon.
Okay.
Um, I will. I have it somewhere in my notes. I
Okay.
can find it and I can text it to you later.
Okay. Yep. Or I can go find
Um,
it on Amazon. I got an Amazon Prime, get free shipping. So you guys go ahead and go get that book by Michael A. Samuel, Seek Ye First. So while we're talking about Seek Ye First, I wanna roll into your second book, Building the Next. So we're talking about, crafting careers to build. So building the next generation. So this book is called The Blueprint, Building Young Kings, the Blueprint to Manhood. Now, what made you go from Seek Ye First and all the way over to the Blueprint, Building the Young Kings?
that's a very long story in itself. Because I'll start with this. I always believe that, you know, ministry was my heart. That was my job. Um, and so through all my years from young man up till my 40s, even when it didn't work out, I always knew that I always knew in my heart that that was my mission. Um, at least that's what I thought. Um, and I began to realize as I got older that my mission was more in the marketplace than it
Mm,
was behind a pulpit. I still preach, I still teach, I'm ordained. Um, but my heart, I always had a heart for identity. And as I got older, it got stronger on my concept of helping young men become the best version of themselves. I always wanted them the right, I always wanted the correct concept of manhood to be realigned with what it should be in the first place, with what the
mm,
Bible actually teaches and what the Bible actually says. Um, and I saw that. And so I won't get too far into it, but after my injury, when I found out about the actual lesion on my left temporal lobe, I began to do a brain dive and look at the neurological concept of how it affected me in my past and how it affected me in my future. And so the things I saw, like the silent killers that these young men were going through, a lot like the ones that I went through, I realized that what I didn't have, what they don't have, is a blueprint.
mm,
And so that's how Boys to Men, I call it the blueprint experience, was created. Those five principles, I believe, are the foundation of what helped young men become the best version of themselves, which led to
mhm.
the book. The book, and I'll have to do a shameless plug on this fact.
Come
I'll
on
have to
now,
give the
let's do
credit
it.
to Ash Cash. Ash Cash was the one that kept pushing me to write this book. Um, and it literally is a blueprint. Um, Now, will it just help men? I don't think it's just for men. That's my mission. That's where God has put me. But I know that it helps young ladies because it's that foundation that still needs to be built. Now,
Mhm.
how they build it, um, that's another story for another day. And I know that I'm supposed to have a girl's version of Boys to Men. I just
Mm,
don't have it yet. So watch out for it. It's
I
coming.
got
I
it.
just
I
don't
like
have
that.
it yet. Um, but I began to write that book, which is literally a blueprint on how to, become the best version of yourself. Um, how those five principles literally fall in line with you building that version of yourself so that you can build a good character. You can build those values. You can build emotional intelligence. Because without those, it's kind of like building, it's like making a cake. You're like, oh well, and the salt looks just like the sugar, and I'm out of sugar.
That's the
So
thing in
I'm
my head.
gonna use this little white stuff that looks like the sugar, but we both know, I'm not about to eat that cake because that's gonna be the nastiest thing I'd have never seen in my whole entire life. But it's the fact that that cake is improper. It's not the proper cake. It may look like it, but somewhere in there, it's not going to taste like it's supposed to work out in the first place. And so
Mm,
I believe our foundation is the same way. If we don't put the right mixture in that cement, it's going to be a shaky foundation. I mean, I get that off of HGTV when, what do you call it when they restructure the house, rebuilt the house,
or like a
rebranding the house? Yeah, like a remodel. It was on my tongue, but while they remodel,
remodel.
let's say they want a bigger island in the kitchen. The fact is, though, that that foundation may not be strong enough for what they want. And
Mhm.
so they have to do workarounds to make that foundation strong enough in order to do that. And so that's Boys to Men in itself. We equip those young men with those tools so that they can build a proper household on, or, I believe that, let's say, the values, the character, and everything else are kind of like the pictures that you put on the wall. It's the furniture that you put in the house. It's those things that make the house the home.
Mm, I love all that. That's awesome. That is a word. And then you have my brain actually on fire sitting over here thinking the female or the girls version of that. So when I'm sitting here thinking like, what could you possibly call it? Something like how do I identify or distinguish from Boys to Men? You know what I mean? And I know you're gonna have your own, but I'm like, oh, that would be so good because sometimes women they don't know how to pick them.
Like Girls on Fire.
Girls on they don't know how to pick them. You picking boys and you think you got a man. It's totally
Hmm.
different. And
Hmm.
when you pull up to the gas station and he expecting you to pump and pay, it's a problem. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's a problem.
No, I've seen a lot of that. I mean,
You
I've
know,
seen men, out here, it'd be like below 3 degrees, and they sitting in the car, while their
warm.
wife is out getting gas and
Mm,
doing it freezing to death. And so I just saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of young men not being able to. I'd be at events and they wouldn't be able to greet me properly. They couldn't even look me in the eyes and tell me their name. They're looking down, shaking my hand,
yeah,
and because they think that that's the right thing to do, which is the right thing to
they
do. But
haven't been
look,
taught.
so I see these silent killers and I'm like, I didn't have a blueprint, but I'm gonna create one and then I'm gonna share it because I believe that these things can help, like I said, not just men, but they can help women too. But
Right.
it's the fact that my mission was for young kings to become kings.
I love it. No, that's wonderful. And I want to step back because you mentioned something. So you said that your brain injury it changed how you think and feel. So I just want to ask you just to talk a little bit about that, and then also how did it help you to become a stronger leader and just a stronger person or a stronger man for yourself, just dealing with that and making and being on the other side of
So,
it.
so let me start when I was 3 years old. I got hit in the head with a bat.
Mm,
Um, and I went from the age of 3 all the way up to the age of 48, struggling because um, what I have affects your emotional regulation. It affects your memory. It affects how you see and how you think about things. And so when I was 48, I found out that I actually had a lesion on my left temporal lobe.
mm,
And so at that point, I was able to um, ascertain and understand how it affected me in my past and why I acted the way I did in my past, which gave me the concept of how to better my future because I realized how it was going to affect my future. Um, And so I took that injury and made my injury, which would be a negative thing in life, which would be a pain point, to become fuel for my future so that I could become the better version of myself. And it's a struggle every day, daily.
Wow.
I fight against those things to become the best version of myself. Which in essence, like here, years ago, me and you wouldn't be talking on podcasts. That wouldn't
Mm.
happen. Um, but I had to learn how to utilize that because I wanted people to know that, hey, Boys to Men exists. But what I realized that is that if I can do it, young men, young ladies, y'all can definitely do it. You can change your mindset to become the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and I always say, the only person that can tell you that you cannot do something is you. You can, with so many
Yeah,
other people can say what they would or wouldn't do, and they'll try to tell you what you can or can't do. And the only person
exactly.
that can't do something, that can tell you that you can't do something is you. Um,
Exactly.
and sometimes we'll be our own either biggest supporter to either overcome something or to decide to not finish something. We can support ourselves negatively or positively. So it's all
Our
about, it
biggest
starts in the
judge.
mind. Yep, yep. And then, like we were talking about before, so so many people want the finished product, but they skip the building blocks, the foundational
Mhm.
stage. They forget about the first start and where you had to start at to get to where you want to be. So let's talk about that, because we talked about just the climb. So on your climb to where you are, what was like some of the hardest things that you had to overcome?
I mean, to think about it, I mean, I'm still climbing and it's still hard every single day. But for me, emotional intelligence was one of my hardest things to deal with.
Mm,
Because at the same time, I'm also an introvert by nature. Um, and so with that injury affecting the emotional intelligence part, the emotional regulation, it magnifies things by, like, let's say, a million for me.
mm-hmm,
And see, when I wake up in the morning, I have 5 coins. And so when I use those coins, each interaction uses a coin. So at the end of the day, I'm spent. So
mm,
for someone on my board who's I know her and I know her, she's an extrovert. So she starts out the day with no coins, but each interaction she gains a coin, kind of like Mario Brothers. And so
mm.
at the end of the day, she feels rich and
Yeah.
encouraged
Yes.
and ready to go. And so at the end of the day, I'm done. See, what people see as, just as relaxation may be work to me.
Mm,
And I don't want to add on extra work. And so how did that help is I began to understand that I had to learn myself more, better understand my identity and better understand how to utilize my tools so that I can get past that hump, so I could get past that negative connotation of what things are supposed to look like. So for me to go to networking events, I had to learn how to use the tools that I had so that I could be the best version of myself. Sometimes maybe, it's me um, recharging a little bit extra that day because I know that I have this going on in the evening. And sometimes I have to walk away. We might be in the middle of I've been in meetings and I've had to walk away and say, give me 5 minutes, we'll take a break, and I'll come back in 5 minutes. That would be me going into another room, breathing,
mm,
listening to some worship music, and just recharging so that I can go back and do what I have to do. Now, I don't do that often anymore, but that is what I did.
mm.
Um, Now I know how to recharge myself while I'm talking, while I'm in a meeting, um, and doing those things. But it's the little steps that get you there that taught me how to do that. It was first walking away, then it was like, now I don't have to. Now I can breathe into it and just recharge.
So I'm going to say, first of all, that analogy is fire. Seriously, like the Mario Brothers. Oh, I'm sitting up here thinking, like, wow, and just how someone else starts out with none, and they go around all day collecting them from other people, and at the end of the day, they feel great, but everybody else they've
Mm-hmm.
taken the coins from, now they're drained. So of course, we as a certified extreme execution coach, we've talked about the flight assessment before.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Eric Thomas has, and I know we've had these on our previous conversations. As I'm sitting here listening, it's like, okay, those flight attendants come around and they just start collecting coins from everybody. And here
Mm-hmm.
we are, air traffic controller or ground crew who are more introverted, to where it's like, man, now it's like, oh man, this person just took my coins and I didn't even want to give them away to them, but they came by and I was trying to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
And, so I understand that, to where you have to step back because you got to protect your energy. You have to recharge to make sure, okay, if I
And that's key.
continue on in this environment, I need to make sure I take care of me first.
That's key.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And then, so I'm thinking about, as you're speaking, how I actually, so first of all, we met at the Master Connector event last
Mm-hmm.
year in Atlanta, and I never would have guessed that, but you see, I'm always running around basically most of the conference that you see me at, but I never thought about it. Subconsciously, I do that because I interact with people, but I interact more with the system and the processes more so with
Mm-hmm.
people. So that's how I get my charge. Where if I stop, it's really a challenge for me to stand there and talk to people, because in my mind I got other stuff I got to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps to protect me. So just to hear you say that, it's like that makes total sense. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, for example, I mean, we just recently did a huge meeting with the board of directors. I felt like I was going into Congress, to be honest with you. There was like 6 people in front of me, and there was like 40 people behind me. And one of my board members was like, you just knocked it out the box. I never would have thought you was an introvert. And at the end, she's like, we need to go celebrate. And I said, well, let me put it this way. If you're giving me permission to go home, I'm going to go home. And I said, and let me explain this to you, because when you want to go celebrate, maybe have a cup of coffee, go do something, it's the end of the day. That's
Mm.
how you recharge. You're excited. I said, for me, that's work. So I just left work to go to work. So that's not how I recharge. Me sitting in my room, I'm recharging. Me around my family, I'm recharging.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I don't want to be around you. It's just we recharge differently.
So let me ask you this: how does it affect you when people ask you questions? And I'm going to tell you why I ask. Why you think about that? When people ask me questions, I'm good with 1. I'm good with 2. By the time I get to 3, my brain is like, okay, this feels like I'm being interrogated, and I have to, like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
wait a second, and I'll either turn around and ask them a question, but I'm like, you're not going to keep firing questions off at me unless this is an interview. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
how does that affect you when someone rapid fires questions off at you?
Um, to be honest with you, I have trained myself to not be offended in
Mm,
those areas. Um, I will answer the question, because a lot of times I've realized that a lot of people are just inquisitive,
mm-hmm.
and they want to know. And that happens at networking events. I mean, you tell someone what you do, and then they just get overly excited and begin to drill. Now, you can tell when someone is just being, a pain in
Surface
the
level.
butt, and they
Yeah.
just want to be surface and just, literally keep grinding you and saying, hey, and grilling you and saying, what about this? What about this? Or they just want to get the best out of you that they can. Um, but that's kind of, my job. That's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
People always are asking questions, and well, how do you do this? And and to be honest with you, I had to become good at, as I even podcasting, where because people are grilling you, they're asking questions. And I have had some that were like, no dry fire. It was like boom, boom,
Man,
boom,
I would be
boom,
like,
boom.
okay, show's over.
And part of me is like, but see, I've turned it around where I'm like, you can ask me all the questions, but you ain't gonna knock me off my game.
That's good.
I'm going
Yeah,
to do what I have to do. You're not going to knock me off my game. And this is, this is who I am. This is what I've designed to be. And like you said earlier, the only one that can limit you, the only one that can stop you is you.
that's right. That's right. And I guess that's why I try to make it more of like a conversation. I may throw a few
Hmm.
questions in there, but it's easier for someone like, I want you to talk about what's interesting to you, not just what I think is interesting about you, because there may be a lot of things that I don't know. So sometimes just listening, you can learn a lot about a person.
And that's true. I mean, and it happens both ways. I mean, I've had some that were just question after question after question, like they knew everything in the world, and yet they ended up learning so much more in the long run. I had one podcast and he was just grilling and grilling, but it was like every 30 seconds he was like, "Oops, whoa, that's a mic drop. Oops,
Mm,
whoa, that's a mic drop." I'm learning so much. So I guess I've learned that people's inquisitiveness and these questions sometimes are driven out of their fear, and I don't know if that makes any
mm,
sense
it does.
because they don't understand, completely what you're doing or why you're doing it, but somehow, some way they're afraid. And so I've learned to not allow their fear to affect me and to put me in a state of fear.
Yeah. And then, I've heard someone said to me one time, don't know how true this is, but that the person who's asking the questions is the one who's in control. So it may be a control thing for some people to where
Yeah,
like
I can
they
see
want to
that.
control the conversation by asking a lot of questions. It's like, well, wait a minute, let's have a conversation. And not just,
Let's collab.
exactly. Yes. Yeah. So like, when we're talking about the emotional intelligence part of it, thinking about questions, let me ask you another question. So
Mhm.
so like, you worked with men and young men like all across different walks of life. So what do you think like the biggest difference is that you've experienced with someone who actually like, wants to be a leader and someone who actually is a leader? Let's say who acts like a leader, but they're really not, but then someone who you recognize that they really are a leader.
I would say, it comes down to the point that they don't know who they are.
Mm,
That's the biggest concept because being a leader is about being humble.
mm,
It's not about, searching to be the leader. Leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room.
mhm.
Um, Sometimes the leader doesn't speak at all,
That's right.
but it's about knowing who you are and it's about owning who you are. And it's at that point that I'm not pulling you along, but I'm pushing you along because I just, I I think both of them are seeking validation at that point. Because if you're seeking to be the leader, that is that title, it's whatever, it's validation because it'll make me who I am. And I have a person in particular that I'm thinking about, and I won't say her name, but we're dealing with this right now about the fact that she is not confident in who she is.
Mm,
But she has a leadership title, and so she thinks everybody should fall in suit and respect her for it. And that's our problem today. I know that that's where we've fallen short, is we think respect comes from that, but respect comes from that humble person, that person that is, you know, um, in line and aligned with the concept of who they're supposed to be, their identity, their their internal GPS, I guess you could say,
mhm,
their thermostat, where we're so it regulates the
mm,
room instead of just saying I'm going to be at 70 degrees or I'm going
mm.
to operate because of this, but regulates the room. Um, and
Yes.
so, I've watched my brother and other leaders, and that's where they lead from a concept of humbleness.
Mhm. So there's a word I can't really think of the word. What is the word that they say now that like when somebody is pretending or they're faking the funk? There's like a certain phrase.
Ah, I bet you if I went and got my daughter, she could tell you right now. I mean, I'm old, so I'm gonna be going like they be faking the funk. They be,
Yeah, well, just
they be pretending.
oh man, I'll probably think of it after as soon as we end. But it's like I wanted to ask you. So, how can you tell when someone is faking the funk or just pretending? Like when you could tell they're not confident at being a leader. How can you tell that?
To be honest with you, I don't think there's any
And if there's any
proven
noticeable signs?
technique or any noticeable signs. It's just being able to discern the fact that someone is uncomfortable in their own skin.
Mm,
They're uncomfortable with their own identity and they don't know who they are.
mm,
It's kind of like there's just like this aura that is transposed when people know their identity. There's a confidence that
yeah.
goes with that. And just somehow, some way, I mean, you just pick up on that. You know that they don't have that confidence in them. Um, Mostly, I usually get a lot of that from people who just talk 24/7 and don't shut up. And
Mhm. There you
I'm
go.
not trying to be mean to people out there, but it's like the more you talk, the less confident you are.
Yep. I agree with that. And my brain is still trying to figure out what that. I'm going to think of it by the end of the show. What the phrase is. Speaking of.
I'll
Um,
get a text at
man,
midnight and be like, I know that word.
what I was thinking about was it's like I want to say it's two letters. It's like okay, I'm gonna have to start playing charades with my brain. I try to figure out what I was thinking about. Um,
Oh,
but like I think as far as leadership, I would always say that you don't have to tell somebody that you're a leader.
mhm.
You just are, and they recognize it. And I was reading John Maxwell's 360-degree leader,
Okay.
and in the beginning of the book, he says this phrase, and he says, talking to people in leadership, follow me, I'm right behind you. So just like you were saying,
Mm,
it's almost like, you
I
lead from
like that.
behind, follow me, I'm right behind you. So like you said, you're pushing someone and you're motivating them, but at the same time, you're still leading them.
I like that. Follow me. I'm right behind you.
Yeah, that was a dope title. Or dope when he said it. And I think he said something about it was an audio book I was listening to. I think he says he was thinking about naming a book that, but it ended up being 360-degree leader. So, when you think about it, it's still the same thing.
Hmm.
Follow me right behind you.
Now you got my brain working. I really like that. I really do. I mean, I really like that because that's the epitome of who we are and what we are. I don't try to lead from the front. A matter of fact, one of my board members, she said in a video that the reason she got involved with Boys to Men Foundation was because of the leader, because he was humble and
Mm,
the way he treated her. She's like, don't get me wrong, I'm all about the mission.
mm-hmm.
The mission of Boys to Men is phenomenal, but what sealed the deal? The humbleness. That was it. And
Yeah,
so I think I like that. I look at that when I look at leaders. How humble really are you? It's if you're not humble, those aren't the people I want to be around.
that's right. And I've always noticed that the higher you get, the closer you get to the top of an organization, the nicer the people are.
Hmm.
I wonder if that's just because they're tired from the climb. I don't. But you have a lot of.
They don't have the energy to be
They don't have
mean.
the energy to be mean anymore. It's almost like when you have children. So I have four, right? There's a huge gap between the first three and then the last one. And it's like
Yeah,
you don't get the same mama that the first three got. It's like, yeah, you're fine. You go ahead and be like, well, what happened? How come you don't do these things? Like, you mean him? It's like,
right.
he'll be fine. Like, I don't
Why
even
you
have
let
the
me touch the stove? I don't have the energy to tell you not to. I don't have the energy to argue no more. You do you.
yeah, but that's true. So it's like, when you think about a good leader, yeah, they are very humble in their approach, the way
Mhm.
they talk to people. And it's like, great leaders you can learn a lot from. Oh, and I
So
thought
I'm
about my
trying to,
word too. It was imposter syndrome.
imposter syndrome. There you
Yes.
go.
That's the word I was thinking about. People who have imposter syndrome, basically them
Mm-hmm.
pretending that when they don't feel confident in who they are.
Yeah, pretending to be someone they're not.
Mm-hmm. All right. So last question I have for you here is like, so what advice would you give someone who's trying to build something that feels like they don't have the right tools, support, or confidence?
Do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Do it scared.
Do it scared. Do it nasty. Do it dirty. It may not be do it anyway.
Do it anyway.
That's what I did when I started, mentoring. You do it anyway. I don't. If you wait for it to be perfect, you'll never start.
That's like I tell people now, and I know I probably heard this in one of the many classes that I've taken with Dr. Eric Thomas, but where are we on now? I don't even like apples, but iPhone, 17? If Steve Jobs was trying to make iPhone 17, we never would have got 1 through 16.
Exactly.
And then you already know as soon as it come out. Now I've heard this from the woes, but as soon as it comes out, it's going to be a patch. It's going to be something that you got to do to fix it. So it wasn't perfect when they put it out, but you still got people.
They did it anyway.
Get it, and they'll get it anyway.
I do have an Apple phone, and I'm on it with you at 100%. Sometimes I'll be wanting to throw that phone through the window. There's a patch. There's a freezing issue here. There's this issue, but like you said, if he didn't just say, you know what, we're gonna put it out there, and I think he talks about that, or talked about it, from previous experiences.
Yeah.
It's like the first Apple computer was not the best thing I had, but if I didn't, I wouldn't have learned. When we did what did they do? That little the iPod. He was like,
I still got one. It probably, if I plug it, it may work.
I got one somewhere, but I don't know. I don't use it. But he's like, even with the iPod, it was like it wasn't part of who we were. It wasn't part of our ecosystem. But if I didn't try it, then we never would have known.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Do it anyway.
Do it anyway, and do it scared, because I always say too to my team is that we can fix something if you do it and do it wrong, but do something. I can't fix it if you don't do anything.
Because I can't fix it if you don't do it. Exactly.
And when you're doing something, even if you fail, at least you tried. At least you know what not to do the next time.
Exactly. But they say failure is not what I mean, and I've learned this: is failure is not failure. Failure is just who was that? He said I didn't fail 1,000 times. I learned how not to do something 1,000 times.
That's right.
So if we don't do it, we're not going to learn.
That's true. That's it. And that's the thing I used to tell my apprentices. That's how you build character. By doing something, even if whether it's hard, whether it's difficult, on the other side of adversity is always opportunity. There's so many things that you learn when you're going through the fire, when you're on the climb, when you're doing all these things. And it's like you think that whatever it is, somebody may be treating you bad, but you're learning how to build that resistance and that resilience up.
Exactly. That's resilience, and where resilience falls in. It's not, are you going to fall? Because everybody gets punched. Everybody gets that sucker punch or hits that L. But how are you going to get back up?
That's it. So, Michael, I did say that was the last question, but this is a different question. So, what's next for you? What's next for you? You got the book. So when can we expect the book to come out?
I'm working on the book to be done as soon as I can. What's next? I'm really just focusing on what's next for Boyz II Men. What's going to, get us recognized the most as we're out there. I have a dream and a desire for Boyz II Men Foundation to be the go-to organization. I want schools to call and say, I know somebody, Well, we
Yes.
need this. Oh, I know somebody. And so really my next step is just to, do everything that I need to do to make Boys to Men Foundation the best that it can be. Um, Talking, speaking, keynotes, building communities and organizations, whatever's in the plans for Boys to Men to be the best version of itself.
So do you have any speaking engagements or any events that are coming up?
I've got quite a few podcasts these next few months. Speaking engagements, I have a few. Um, I would like more. Definitely would like more. And so, but I put it in this way, it's in God's hands. And so, but what I realize is if I don't go out to find it, it's not just going to show up on my front porch.
Very true. Faith without works is dead.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yes. All right. Now, I promise you, this is the absolute last question I have for you. I promise you, this is the last one. So the name of the show is Alpha Intuition. So I always ask my guests, what
like
does
a Baptist preacher. You got three or more closes.
Yes. So the name of the show is Alpha Intuition. What does Alpha Intuition mean to you, and how does trusting your gut help you grow? Or how has trusting your gut helped you grow?
You're gonna laugh, but I kind of thought about this. I thought about that question because I knew it was coming. To me, Alpha Intuition is, let me put it this way. The blueprint experience for me is what forms me. Alpha Intuition is everything that the blueprint experience has that guides me. And let me explain that. It's basically power with peace. It's like being meekness, which is strength under control. It's authority. It's humility. It's knowing what to do when to do nothing. So that's Alpha Intuition to me. It's complete and total alignment in our experiences and our responsibilities and not being dominant in where we're at. It's that humble experience that we were talking about earlier. And so to me, Alpha Intuition isn't just instinct, it's identity. It's our values, it's our leadership, it's our emotional intelligence, it's our resilience, all working together in real time.
I need to take you on tour with me. I like all of that. I love it. well, Michael, tell my Alpha Intuition family where they can find you, and if they're interested in booking you, tell them what they need to do.
Best bet is probably on my Instagram handle, somewhere in there. My team will get it. I also have my website, which is b2mf.org, and you can actually fill out a form, and my team will get back to you. The next best is probably my email, which would be info@boystomenfound, b2mf.org. But I think the best way about it is call Keisha, because she knows how to get in touch with me.
You already know it. Yes. That's it. Look, and y'all can leave a comment down below, and I'm going to make sure I put all of your contact info in the bio too. So you guys will see it down there. I'm going to put in there how to find the book, Seek Ye First. I'll put that link to Amazon. And then I'll make sure I put out his social media and his email address in there. Some people don't want their email, but since you do, I'll make sure we get it. Yeah, but you guys already know all y'all got to do is, if y'all hit me up, I'm definitely going to respond, and I'll make sure that I put you in touch with Michael. Because you see, men need this. I'm a boy mom, right? And I said a long time ago, I can't teach you how to be a man. I can teach you how to be the man that I want you to be. But it takes just like it takes a woman to teach a girl how to be a woman. There's certain things that happen that I don't know. I can't explain. So men like you are definitely needed in this world. So from the bottom of my hands, from a girl, from a boy mom, I appreciate you doing what you do.
I appreciate it. I really do. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you allowing me to share on your podcast, on your site this evening. It's been phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Alpha Intuition family, we have reached the end of the show. This is like, I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. So Michael, like I said, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Alpha Intuition family, you guys already know, make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this with somebody. And if this is your first time watching, I appreciate you making it to the end. Please make sure that you like and subscribe and share this with somebody that you almost like, because they might just subscribe. They might just decide to become a subscriber too. So once again, just make sure that you tap in. Make sure that you guys always remember that the journey to the top of the mountain begins with one single step. Don't stop, keep climbing, and we will holler at y'all later. We out. Peace.
Thank you.